you ever had a secret that you had to keep to yourself? A secret that you had to keep so deep that it could be detrimental to your health and safety? Well, for me, that secret was being trans. Hi, my name is Elizabeth, and this is my journey. So sit back, relax, and let's learn together about what it means to be trans and how we can best support a community under attack. Around late August, I had a conversation again with my partner Alex about my 3-month update on HRT. This is the conversation that we had. It's Elizabeth.
And this is Alex.
And we're going to be talking about
your first 3 months on HRT.
Yeah, so let's do it. So, first 3 months on HRT. It's definitely been a lot of changes so far for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I do want to specify the things we're talking about are only our experiences with hormones. We are not giving any medical advice. Please see a doctor about dosage or if you want to start HRT, all that good stuff.
Absolutely. It is incredibly important that we are not medical professionals, not giving medical advice, and I'm just reiterating the fact that please talk to your doctor. Please talk to a medical professional regarding HRT, which stands for hormone replacement therapy and or other trans-affirming procedures and surgeries and other things of that nature.
Yes.
Disclaimer now complete.
Yeah.
For sure. All right. So, what is your first question for me, Alex?
Yeah. What was the process of accessing HRT?
I definitely want to say, to be clear, I was like 29 when I did this, so it wasn't like when I was significantly younger when I first accessed HRT. It felt like an easier process, specifically because of the state that I live in. The scariest aspect of it was first coming out to my doctor, for sure. That really took up a lot of courage to just build up the necessary, wit to just be able to go and say to my doctor, by the way, I'm a transgender person and these are my pronouns and this is my name. Is it cool if I, go by that when in your office and vice versa? And so far it was a scary initially because of the fact that I didn't talk to my doctor directly. I just texted him that.
Oh, yeah. That sounds a bit nerve-wracking.
It did. It was very nerve-wracking. But after I told my doctor, that, I was surprised how cool he was about it, which was good because I was expecting a little bit of pushback because of other experience I've heard from trans people in that regard when it comes to talking medical professionals.
Yeah, some people who come out to their doctors find that their doctors are not affirming, or trans friendly. Yeah.
So that was definitely a very scary thing that I was happy to get over once I told my doctor. One thing, and after I kind of told my doctor initially and got over the initial fear, I set up an appointment with him and we sat down, talked about, specific things that I was going to need and if they had any recommendations for a place to go for trans-affirming care because his particular office does not have the necessary equipment or skill set to be able to do it. So I recommended a trans-specific facility, which is through an endocrinologist, right?
I believe so.
Yeah. At least in regards of, setting up the necessary medications one would need to go through hormone replacement therapy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, people typically see an endocrinologist for it because it is hormones and endocrinology deals with those systems. So they are typically more informed about the specifics of how hormones affect the body. Yeah, so you were referred to the trans clinic at WashU. For me, the process was different, but I also sought out a trans-friendly doctor in the first place for my primary care physician.
Right.
I was 19. I had just moved out of my parents' house. and I knew I was trans, and I was living in a house of all trans women, and I was the token trans mask.
Oh, wow.
Which it was great. It was kind of funny being the only trans mask in the house, but it was good. And so they told me about the trans clinic at WashU, and then another like private practice here in St. Louis.
Right.
So I called them, set up an appointment to see them, talk to the nurse practitioner that I made an appointment with, and they were affirming. Obviously, that was why I went to them in the first place.
Of course.
I had some other things going on, so they wanted to stabilize my mental health before we started hormones. But they just did informed consent. They do the blood draws right there in the office, all that stuff. And I don't see a specialist for it. So there's like different avenues for accessing hormones depending on where you're located, what's available, and how informed doctors are in your area.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that, I guess going into a little bit, I guess the first appointment that I had, it was a little bit nerve-wracking because like you, I kind of had to call them in advance to set up my own appointment. Mm-hmm. Even though my doctor recommended me to talk to them specifically because they are the ones who are specialists in this particular field right now. And it was just like kind of when I walked in, it was like kind of nerve-wracking because I kind of was like prepared to go to warfare in a way, for lack of a better term, because I was like, I didn't have, because of the new, I guess, trans law that was produced by the AG, kind of was blocking people from getting access to trans care, and there was a lot of different requirements and a lot of different paperwork that you needed ahead of time. I did not have any of that.
Yeah, the specific timing of you trying to access hormones was maybe not the best.
Absolutely no.
Because that was around May, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
And there was that tumultuous stuff with the like executive order that he put out.
Yeah.
Which was knocked down as like you're not allowed to do that.
Right.
But it like mostly ended up passing, which is bad.
Yeah. There's still a lot that's kind of going on with that. That's not great.
Yeah. But that specific point in time, there was a lot of fear in the trans community.
Yeah.
In Missouri that we were going to lose hormone access, like just across the board.
Yeah. It was definitely a very scary time. So
yeah.
It was
WashU and the other clinics were like not really sure what things were going to look like for providing any sort of trans care, and they weren't really giving us answers about if they were even going to try to keep providing for us.
Yeah.
It was a lot.
It was definitely a lot, for sure. Yeah. It was definitely just scary just walking into the building that day, I had asked a friend to go with me, just to drop me off at the very least and just like, hey, can you just get me there? Because transportation is a little bit hard sometimes getting from where I'm at to all the way to Missouri. And even though I was like kind of ready for warfare, like just to be able to like, I'm going to, I kind of know my rights and stuff like that. I'm just going to try to do it that way. And like, even though I don't have that necessary paperwork, except for like the new patient forms and stuff that they gave me. It was like walking into this like, Cloud 9 heavenly place initially. 'Cause it was like, oh, what's your pronouns and what's your name and stuff like that. It wasn't this like, oh, you need this, and this paperwork. Yeah. It was like a place that was just friendly, affirming, and the staff was kind. My endocrinologist in particular was kind. I think the first thing he asked me when I walked in was, what name do you prefer to go by? Because he was looking at my chart. I mean,
yeah,
he knew my dead name. He just said it, but he just was like, what do you prefer to go by? I was just like, oh, I told him my name at the time.
Yeah.
And Yeah. And it was just a lot less scary. Of course, they went down the informed consent route instead of it being like I would have to hit these particular markers, have these particular paperwork, have necessary signatures, therapists,
Right.
stuff like that, like to do in, I guess, different countries and other places around the country,
Yeah.
too.
And those can be very important steps for people. If you're having any questioning about if it's right for you, definitely talk to a therapist. We both knew for sure that it was what we wanted and needed for our mental health and our well-being overall. So you have to like really evaluate yourself. You have to know yourself, talk to your doctor. If you're having any doubt, just talk to a therapist. Even if it's not required to access hormones, talk to a therapist if you need to work out your feelings.
110% do that. Yeah. Actually, I guess going back a little bit, kind of when I was like first coming out, I actually did go to a therapist first.
Right.
That was the first thing I did. So, and I would say, just from speaking from that experience myself, it was one of the best decisions that I made, going to a therapist first, kind of figure out what those feelings that I was feeling was, where I was mentally, how the therapist, because if it wasn't for my therapist, I don't even know how I would have been able to talk to my doctor about this to begin with.
That's fair.
So that's one of the things that's incredibly important. If you are able to go to a therapist and access a therapist, because I understand it can be an expensive and very complicated process to be able to get access to a therapist, please go through that. If you do not, I will definitely try to look up some resources to make those available if you're looking for a therapist in that regard.
Yeah. At the very least, talk to somebody.
Yeah.
Like, there's people in the trans community who will gladly listen to you.
Absolutely.
Like, just take your time, process, figure out your feelings before you try to access hormones.
Absolutely.
But also, if you're sure and your state offers informed consent, like, it can work out well for you.
Obviously.
I'm here 4 years in, and it was definitely the right decision for me.
Yeah. Absolutely. But always consult your medical professionals first.
Yes, absolutely.
If it is right for you, if it is safe for you, then go for it.
Yes.
But yes.
What sort of feelings did you have leading up to your first day?
I was like a bundle of nerves, to be honest. It was exciting, nerve-wracking. I was just nervous. I didn't know what the potential side effects, if there were going to be any side effects regarding the medications I was about to take. And just like heading down to like, my pharmacy to go pick those, estradiol for the first time up. It was honestly like very scary process. And I don't mean that in like a negative way, obviously. I mean that like it was a good nervousness. It was like, I'm excited to do this. I'm excited to go and start this process. I'm excited to have these changes happen to me that I want to have happen, and kind of be able to one day look in the mirror and see myself as I have always mentally perceived myself, rather than the image that is currently being projected out to the world that I don't want everyone to see.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it was definitely a very emotional time for me too.
That makes sense.
Yeah, for sure. What was it like for you, I guess?
Yeah, it was similar. So I knew, well, because I'm on T, which is different. Initially, I was doing the shot, which is more affordable, like drastically more affordable than the gel. And so the first dose was administered in the office because they had to show me how to properly inject myself.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So I made my appointment. I knew I had like a month advance notice. I'm like, a month from now, December 18th, I'm starting T. So it was really exciting. My then girlfriend went with me. One of the techs showed me how to do it. The nurse practitioner who I was seeing as my provider, she talked me through all the changes. I signed the consent form. And then they injected me. I mean, like, it hurt because it's a needle, but it was really exciting. And then that evening, my roommate actually came home with a cake that I forget, it was like Happy Tea Day or something like that.
Oh, that's so nice.
Yeah, and one of my other roommates invited like a couple people over to celebrate, and we just hung out and had some cake, and it was nice. It was a good time.
That sounds fun. That sounds amazing. Yeah. Yeah. It's always good to have that like emotional support there. Yeah. Especially when you're like, it's your first day doing it. So it's incredibly important for sure. Yeah.
Yeah. I was more excited than nervous because I had known that I wanted this for a very long time. So it was really exciting to finally get to have it. The other thing we were going to talk about is the changes that you've experienced so far.
Oh my gosh, there are so many. For sure. There's actually been quite a number of changes that I've noticed. The first thing that I noticed was some, I guess, mental changes, or at least thought process changes per se. That was like, I guess, around the first week when I was first taking it. About the first month in, or like within the first couple of weeks, I noticed the first physical thing that I noticed was like my skin felt a little bit different. It felt softer, almost silky in a way, which was kind of cool. It was very affirming. And like I have historically had very rough like hands that look like a maintenance or like someone who works in like, you know, construction and whatnot. It's very rough hands. And like almost in a week or overnight almost, they are like felt softer. They don't feel as rough anymore. My nails look a little bit better. I didn't have to put as much lotion as I used to put on my hands, stuff like that.
Nice.
So those were that was the first initial really big change that I noticed right away. The second one was, you know, around the 3-month mark, I kind of started noticing. And again, if you're not ready for breast, may want to click out of this, or there'll be time codes and everything, hopefully, regarding this. But, you know, one of the first things I noticed was, you know, sensitivity around my best area for sure. That was one of the first things I definitely noticed around the 3-month part. It was just like hurting a little bit. It was, you know, very tender, very sensitive around that area. And that was kind of a big thing I noticed there. And I also noticed around the 3-month mark was my taste buds changed a little bit. Food tasted differently. I had an experience that kind of threw me off for the first time. I don't know how folks feel about Taco Bell, but I've been eating it for over a decade. I kind of like it. It didn't taste that bad. And all of a sudden, I ordered a bunch of it because I was super hungry one day, and it tasted terrible.
Oh, no.
I tried everything. I was just like, why does this taste so bad? This is not okay. I spent $30 on this. This is not cool. So I had to toss everything out, which was fine. But just little things like that, I started to notice, like, I'm a little more sensitive to how things taste now. I'm a little sensitive to how things smell and things of that nature. Things I didn't notice when I was, I guess, had more testosterone in my body versus now.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what was the first 3 months like for you, I guess?
That's a good question. I'm trying to think back. My voice dropped. It started dropping pretty quickly. I was told to expect bottom growth in the first 2 weeks. That's usually people's first change.
Yeah.
That did not happen for me. So I actually was surprised by not experiencing that change. Trying to think. I think the main thing was that my voice started dropping like pretty quick.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was the main change at that stage. I don't always have the best like body awareness or awareness of my emotions because I'm autistic. And so some of those sort of changes are maybe more obvious to other people than they are to me. I don't like directly feel different when I'm on testosterone versus when I'm off of it. It's more like subtle ongoing stuff because I have some disconnect between myself and my body. So like I feel better, but it's like really hard to quantify. Yeah,
Yeah, no, that makes sense. Totally. I understood. Yeah, no. That's perfectly fine. Yeah, I guess some people are aware of different things in a way. Yeah, for sure.
Because I know some people are like, oh yeah, I feel like noticeably better, like emotionally or whatever. Because if some people have more awareness of their emotions, first of all, and also like the way that they're feeling and stuff.
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah, I know that was kind of like that for me in a way. Especially like in the very beginning, that was like one of the first few things that I noticed was the internal stuff or the mental stuff for me.
Yeah.
Mainly just because of the fact that I felt better because I was taking HRT to begin with.
Oh yeah, that definitely. Yeah, I definitely felt better because I was taking it, and I knew that I could look forward to the changes in my body happening.
Oh yeah, 100%.
But I have trouble identifying what I'm feeling anyway.
Yeah.
I have trouble feeling and naming my emotions.
Oh dear.
Yeah. It's definitely tied to being autistic.
That's totally understandable.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, that makes perfect sense.
So those changes I can't really speak on because it's kind of esoteric to me.
Totally fair. Yeah. Like, yeah. No, I totally get that. Yeah. I guess if anyone else is listening thinking about hormones, that may be something that might definitely change for them too in a way, right?
Wait, what?
What?
Sorry, I say that again?
I was saying like some of the emotional changes might be something someone might notice when they first start.
Oh, yes.
As well.
Yes.
And of course, when it comes to HRT in general, everyone's mileage is different.
Yes.
So
if you have alexithymia, HRT is not going to fix your alexithymia.
Yeah.
You're still going to have alexithymia.
Exactly.
After HRT.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly, yeah. Yeah. I mean, yeah, for sure. I mean, thinking back a little bit more, thinking about HRT, I guess, a little more.
Mm-hmm.
I would definitely say one thing that I've noticed is I kind of maybe have started my period as well. That's one thing I've noticed when starting HRT.
Yeah.
That's something that definitely could happen, and it might not be, quote unquote, a period in a traditional sense. I don't bleed, for example.
Well, yeah.
Yeah, that's one difference, I guess, between cis women and trans women. Is like we don't bleed, per se. If you are, please consult a medical professional because that is a problem.
There's something wrong if you're bleeding and you don't have a uterus.
Yes.
But the emotional changes and like the cramping can just affect the smooth muscle in the abdomen.
Absolutely, 110%. That's something I definitely experienced. The first month was I would feel like pretty bad cramps, as well as just like my emotions and my hormones kind of being all over the place.
Yeah.
So that's maybe an experience that you might have. And again, if that's something that is concerning to you at all, consult a doctor.
Yeah. Yeah, if you're on hormones and you experience that, talk to your doctor about it.
It's incredibly important to consult a medical professional.
Yeah. Doctors will be able to answer your questions about things.
For sure.
And if they cannot, honestly, they need better education. And I've heard too many stories about trans people having to educate their doctors on HRT and stuff. The trans people should not know more about the things than their doctors do. It's
kind of counterintuitive.
We should not have to be medical experts on top of everything else that we're doing in order to have good medical care. That's not how things should work.
Nope, not at all. Yeah.
What are some changes that you're looking forward to?
I guess looking forward to definitely hair growth, which is a potential possibility, which would be good. Definitely, hopefully, my face and chest hair will either grow in a lot lighter and a lot less, which would be great. And maybe some facial feminization, which is a possibility with progesterone, which is something I'm going to be taking pretty soon.
Yeah.
Those are kind of the two or the things I'm looking forward to the most, because those are the things that I've kind of been wanting the most. I definitely wanted long, beautiful, luscious locks. That's been a fantasy of mine for many, many years, but it's never been attainable. And yeah, I guess the further I go down, I'm just excited for the, possibility of just being like, not having one ever having to do a double take when they see an F on my driver's license or something like that. Little things like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Those are kind of the big things I'm looking forward to.
Nice.
Are there anything that you're looking forward to in the next coming years, months, days?
Yeah. Actually, so it's taken sort of until now for me to start getting any better facial hair growth. So I think I mentioned, I may have mentioned last time, I took HRT for like 2 years, and then I had to skip a year because I didn't have like insurance, and so I couldn't afford it. So it's been 4 years since I started, but I'm coming up on 3 years, like actually on T. And up to this point, I was only able to grow facial hair, like my sideburns, a little bit of a mustache, and then a neck beard of all things. And so it just looks kind of garbage, in my opinion. But I'm finally starting to get like a little bit more on my lower lip, a little bit more on like my jaw or my cheek in that sort of area. I'm like actually maybe gonna be able to grow some legit facial hair instead of just some shitty parse. So
Yeah, no, I totally understand. When I was like a very young teenager, it was just like, patches, and then eventually it just will grow all in one all at once. So I totally understand that. Yeah. It's definitely rough out there for sure when it comes to when you first start growing out facial hair.
Yeah. I'm hoping to get something more consistent and workable, even if I end up shaving it and not keeping it on my face. Just the fact that I would have the option to have decent facial hair.
Yes, for sure. I am very certain you will have a beautiful, luscious beard in the near future.
Thank you.
However, I am biased, so there you go.
Yeah. It's weird because I honestly didn't know how I felt about facial hair until I was growing it.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think I expected to be so excited about growing a beard until I was like, oh, I'm actually going to be able to grow a beard.
Yeah, for sure.
Because until sort of now, I was just like, damn, this facial hair is annoying. Well, now that it's actually maybe going to look okay, I'm like, oh, I'm actually cool with this.
Yeah, absolutely, for sure. Yeah, it's definitely a process. I mean, I actually can't get ready until I get rid of it all. That would be the most exciting thing for me.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's a lot to look forward to in like the next few months and the next few years, which would be exciting. I feel like, yeah, that'll be good. Because it's like I've always wanted long hair on my shoulders, and that is potentially becoming a possibility. Because I've been growing out my hair for over a year, and look how short it is.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
It's like, it's not that much. To be fair, it's probably longer than a lot of hair that I've had in the past, because I've always cut it super short and always had to like kind of buzz cut kind of look.
Yeah, last year your hair was very short.
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah, because I've always kept it very, very short for like work, because I used to, it was like a requirement when I played football. You have to keep your hair short because your helmet and stuff like that. You don't want anything getting in your eyes or like get pulled and whatnot. Little things like that. Or at the very least, like braiding it in that respect.
But if it was too short to braid, that's not a solution.
Yeah, so you just have to cut it all off.
Football.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, just sports like that, it was just safer to have shorter hair typically too, especially when I was wrestling in high school and things of that nature.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I did a bit of wrestling myself as a child, at the very cusp of being able to do children's wrestling, and I had very long hair, and having a long braid was honestly annoying.
Yeah.
So even with it tied up and sometimes wrestling other people who also had some long hair, it was annoying. So I understand.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Yeah. I mean, yeah, because when I was wrestling, it was just couldn't be done. Sometimes guys would pull on it.
Oh, jeez.
Which was not fun, so I just shaved it all off.
That's
I was
just rough.
like, yeah, no, for sure. But that was over a decade ago.
Yeah.
This is now, and I have something to look forward to now.
Yeah.
I can finally have the hair of my dreams, hopefully.
Yes.
Which should be good. Yeah. Yeah, for sure. So, tell me about you.
What specifically?
I don't know. Yeah. I guess, since you're now, I guess, going into year 3 for you right now, and you kind of talked about, like, the first 3 months, what it was like in a way. What is it like for you being on T more so in year 3 versus your first year taking HRT?
Things are pretty stable, to be honest. When I first started, it took a little bit, and then like I stopped having periods for the most part. And like every few months, I would just have like a small amount of breakthrough bleeding, which is more annoying than anything. Because at least on T, any of the like emotional effects that went with my periods were pretty well suppressed. As long as I stayed on top of my injections and kept that on time, which I'm honestly kind of bad at. I've been bad about actually doing my shot on time, which is fine. I should do better, but I can't change the past. It is what it is.
Yes.
But not having any of like the emotional swing, which I have limited awareness of anyway.
Yeah.
Which just like honestly makes it worse. Because I'm like, I feel off and I don't understand why. And then my period starts and I'm like, oh, that makes sense. Well, eliminating that swing is really good for me.
Yeah.
Now I'm just stable across the board, and that's much better. I have too much other mental health shit that like I really just don't need that extra element. It just was not good for me.
Absolutely.
I do have like a little bit more frequency with periods now because I have an IUD.
Right.
And the copper IUD specifically is like associated with heavier periods. And so like I have a little bit more period still versus before the IUD. But it's not nearly as bad as when I had the IUD and I wasn't on T. That was rough.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. I was not super prepared for the year that I was off T. It took a while for like my cycle to come back the way it was before. It was a nightmare. It fucking sucked. So yeah, that was honestly part of how I learned that I do so much better on T was forcibly not being on it.
Yeah. I totally get that.
Yeah. Like, oh, the comparison. I am much better on T. My body operates way better on testosterone versus estrogen.
Yeah.
I should not be on an estrogen system. It's just not great for my body or mind.
Yeah. Yeah, that's another thing I've kind of noticed too. I feel like my body overall has been doing significantly better on estrogen versus on testosterone.
Yeah.
Because one thing that I definitely noticed was just like it's easier for me to lose weight now, which is actually a huge thing that's been a big problem with me specifically. Because I was kind of at this point where I was trying to lose a certain amount of weight at a certain amount of time, and I was kind of just stuck at like one weight. It was just like I couldn't get past either going up or going down. I couldn't get past that. Yeah. And the second I started estrogen, it was just like, oh, you're on estrogen now? Well, it's time to lose all this muscle mass and weight. Just like it was much easier to get down to more of a goal weight, which was I think around like 290 something pounds or something like that.
And this was with a doctor's advice.
Yes, this
just
was
to clarify. Like,
just to clarify.
this isn't. Yeah.
Just to make sure that everyone is aware. Weight loss is a possibility when taking estrogen. It is not a cure-all. It is not a. It is a possible side effect, but it's not for. It actually has. It can get either swing either way. It's like guaranteed.
Hormones can all sorts of effects. You can either get one extreme or the other.
Exactly. So, like I said, like we were reiterating either at the very beginning of this podcast and throughout the podcast, please consult your doctor and please consult an endocrinologist, a hormone specialist, in regards of your specific goals with HRT and your desires and outcomes if you wish to go down this route.
Yeah, you don't. It's a mixed bag. You don't get to choose what changes you get. You get what you get.
Exactly. You can't throw.
Some of the changes are not reversible, which
Exactly.
is why you need to be sure that you want this before you do it.
Exactly. Yeah. So it's a possibility. There is, but for me, it has affected me, and it makes me feel better about not only what's like how I physically look outwardly, makes me feel a little better about that, but it also makes me feel about what's going on in the inside as well, which is another thing that's incredibly important.
Nice.
So,
That's good.
Yeah, it's been a good time. I'm kind of, like I was saying before, I was kind of very excited to what the future is going to behold, what the next 3, next 6, and maybe even next couple of years are going to look like.
Yeah.
While still taking HRT. Yeah. I guess, Yeah.
Yeah, I think people tend to talk about like the first couple years of hormones more than past that.
Yeah.
There definitely are people who talk about some of the longer term effects that they've experienced, but I think because people experience the most change in like the first 2 years, that is what most people have focused on. But there is still like, it's kind of an ongoing journey. Like,
Yeah.
you can expect changes for a really long time.
Absolutely. Yeah. And it's just, like everyone's mileage may vary, It might not happen in the first month. It might happen in like month 6 for you, for example, or something.
Yeah.
That change that you might have been looking forward to.
Especially estrogen. Estrogen tends to be like slower
Yeah.
and a little bit more subtle.
Yeah. So if you're expecting, I guess, massive changes and things of that nature, or just things happen overnight, that might not be the case for you. And that's okay. That doesn't
None
mean,
of the changes are overnight.
Yes. No.
Regardless.
Regardless.
It is a little bit quicker with testosterone for some of the stuff. But
yes. For sure. But yeah. And the thing I kind of want to reiterate too, I think I did this in the first episode, just because you don't take HRT doesn't mean you're any less of a trans person.
Oh, of course.
That is number one.
HRT happens to be right for the two of us, but it's not right for everybody or every trans person.
Yes.
And you don't need hormones to be your true gender. You are your true gender.
Yes.
You are valid.
Yes.
And you are loved.
110%. Absolutely valid, absolutely loved.
Yes.
So that's another thing I kind of wanted to talk about too. I mean, because I know for a while I was actually okay with not being on hormones.
Yeah.
It felt right for me, from like a mental health standpoint to do it. It also felt right for me, even actually from just a medical perspective, because that was something that might have helped some of the other medical issues that I've been having as well.
Yeah.
As a possibility. But, now, kind of just looking back on it, there are times where I'm just like, I'm super glad about this. I'm happy about this. There are some changes that are just like I'm very excited for, and there are changes that I'm like, I just wish would happen tonight or today or whatever right now in this very instant, stuff like that. But, if I wasn't on it and just like only had the opportunity to just, dress a certain way and maybe have to shave my face every other day, I would have been fine doing that too.
Yeah.
That was only available to me. So that's all good. Yeah. Yeah. So I guess, trying to figure out what I wanted to ask next.
Oh.
Yeah. I definitely have been curious about I know one thing that doesn't affect trans women that definitely affects trans masculine people per se is voice changing and stuff like that.
Yeah.
What was that like for you?
Oh, that was interesting. So I actually felt like I could kind of feel it happening. Like, not directly, because the changes started quickly, but I had some soreness, some scratchiness, and I didn't feel like I could sing. Like, it was really uncomfortable to sing, at all, for a while. And I'm kind of self-conscious, so I don't usually sing in front of people anyway, but I sing in the car. And that's one of the things that brings me joy. And it was really uncomfortable and I wasn't able to do it. My voice started cracking about probably 4-ish months in, I think.
Yeah.
I could find an exact timeline. I have a video where I was doing my tea update and my voice cracked in the update.
Oh, wow.
That I was going to be, yeah. I'm oh, and my voice is cracking while I'm updating. And I think that was the first time my voice cracked was when I was doing that update.
Yeah.
So that was kind of fun. Yeah. And then after, I don't know exactly how long, after a while, my voice settled in and stopped dropping. And when that happened, the discomfort I had resolved and I was good to go. My voice was all good.
Yeah.
My throat was back to normal. I still don't sing for people, but I'm able to sing again.
Yeah, no, that's great.
So.
Yeah. No, I totally get that. I know with my voice, I sometimes kind of feel dysphoric about it at times because I kind of have always had a relatively deep voice. I mean, it's great for radio. It's great for some of the voice acting stuff that I do on the side, obviously. However, walking around in public and just hearing that big booming voice, if I'm in a dress, that would be oh no. It could be one of those situations that I haven't experienced yet, but can be a little bit dysphoric for some people. I know one thing that I kind of was hoping would happen was maybe my voice might change if I took estrogen, but that is not the case in my particular, from my own research and from my own experience with it. That is not something that happens.
Yeah.
So
one of the irreversible changes is that testosterone drops your voice and you can't take that back.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that applies for cis and trans people.
Yes, for sure.
You go through testosterone-based puberty. That's your voice now.
Yeah.
Without extensive voice training.
Yeah. So that's something I have to look for is to do voice training, either just for me to feel a bit more euphoric in my body, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, you definitely, again, that's not required. That's only if it's a personal choice.
Yeah. And again, if you're happy with your voice and you love how your voice sounds regardless, don't do voice training, obviously, if that's not for you per se. It's also an expensive process to get a vocal coach to do it with you as well. So that's another thing that you might want to take into consideration. But, if you are interested, one thing that actually helped me with hitting a higher pitch, because I was a tenor when I used to sing, was, learning how to sing, learning how to hit those high notes, which was the only way I felt euphoria with my voice at all, which is why I actually used to sing a crap ton in general and try to train myself to hit those higher pitches.
Yeah, I had the opposite experience.
Oh, wow.
Where actually as a teen, I didn't listen to any artists who were ladies.
Oh,
like
wow.
at all.
Yeah.
Like, because I was able to like pitch match. I can like sometimes like pitch match, but I can't like read music and sing the notes correctly.
Right.
But like as a kid, I was able to match Demi Lovato like perfectly.
Oh, wow.
Like I straight up had somebody that was like really impressed. I have gotten compliments on my singing voice before tea. I haven't sang for anybody after tea. So I cannot speak to the quality of my singing now.
That's fair.
But I was a good singer. But because of dysphoria, I was only really comfortable with going for like lower notes.
Yeah.
I was like naturally in the alto tenor range, and I enjoyed hitting those lower notes and pitch matching with men.
Yeah.
Versus trying to pitch match with women. And it wasn't until after I was out that, well, once I was like getting to be an older teen, I did start listening to more variety and not being so restrictive with it, because I'm like, why am I restricting myself on what music to listen to?
Yeah.
Just because it's silly. It was driven by dysphoria, to be clear. I obviously have nothing against anybody singing.
Yeah, no, of course.
And in fact, I quite enjoy many of the singers that I listen to now. One of the people I listen to frequently is Melanie Martinez. I cannot hit like any of the notes that she hits, like ever, pretty much, especially now. Yeah. I don't know what I was saying anymore.
That's okay.
I went off on this weird tangent,
No,
and I
it's
don't know
fine.
what I was even trying to say.
No, it's totally fine. Yeah.
I don't know how we got here.
Yeah, we're just talking about singing voices and I guess voices and like vocalization in general, that we just kind of went down this tangent. It's totally fine.
Yeah.
It happens.
Oh, I think I may have been trying to say something like I was trying to sort of do like self-voice training with,
Yeah.
because I can kind of pitch match.
Right.
And so before I started T, I was like working on being able to like match some of the higher notes, I think with Melanie Martinez specifically, because I really enjoy her songs.
Right.
Which obviously I had to stop doing once I started T. Any progress that I made has been reset because my voice dropped.
Right.
I only recently sort of gained awareness of being able to do like a falsetto,
Oh.
which I've accidentally done.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's like, it feels different than like genuinely getting up there, if that makes sense. Yeah, I haven't quite figured out how to do it like on purpose, but
Yeah. And that's okay. It comes with the territory. Just learn how to
Yeah.
figure that stuff out. And, I know when I kind of was starting to sing and like, trying to figure out how to like match out those higher notes and hit that falsetto, I actually found out something that was very interesting when I was actually a lot younger in high school choir. So one of the things that we used to do in high school when we, were first joining the choir at the time was we had to sing for our choir director, and she would play a note on the piano, see if we can match it, and like she would go up and up and up and up and up. Just to see how high or how low we can go in regards to like our vocal range.
yeah.
One of the compliments that was very euphoric for me at the time was she's like, yeah, you sing higher for, someone who as deep as your natural speaking voice is.
Right.
And that was like a huge thing for me. I was just like, oh my God, that's so cool. So she like was like, when she looked at me and heard the way I spoke and stuff like that, she was like pretty much wrote me off as either a baritone or like a bass maybe, because of how deep my voice naturally is. But when I got in there and we were doing like pitching and stuff like that and experimenting with that to kind of see where I was, she instantly was kind of surprised and put me in the tenor section.
Nice.
So that was like a big thing for me. That was just like, yay, things of that nature. But there was actually a point where I just stopped singing altogether after high school. and just was like unable to like figure it out, because one thing that kind of happened to me, the older I got, actually the deeper my voice got, fun fact. So it was like I couldn't hit those high notes anymore, like when I was like a teenager anymore. So this is not fun anymore. So yeah, that's where I got with that. But now, you know, being on estrogen, I feel more comfortable with it, and have actually started retraining my voice again to try to be able to hit those high notes naturally without straining it or without hurting myself anymore.
Yeah.
Because that was kind of a big problem. And also listening to a lot of trans femme artists has also been helping a lot too, because it's just like, you know what? If I have a deep singing voice, that's totally fine. I still sound great and sexy anyway.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Well, I think this is a good stopping point here.
Yeah. Thank you for joining us.
Yeah.
It's been great talking to you about this.
It's been great talking to you about this as well. And definitely catch the next episode.
Yep. Bye.
Bye. Thanks for listening. For content like this and more, check out the JSS Industries YouTube channel and website. Thanks again for joining us and learning about the mad times before womanhood.